Hi, good afternoon. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope everybody's having a good time. It's a nice coincidence that it's Valentine's Day because it lets me talk a little bit about some of the things that I really love, like great stories and good writers and happy readers, and a little bit about Byliner as well, which is our San Francisco-based startup that we launched 18 months ago. My name is John Tayman, as Joe said, and my background is a little bit in startups, but mostly in publishing. I've been an editor and a writer for national magazines. I've done books, the most recent one with Scribner. And I was happy when they invited me to give this keynote, and especially when I heard that they wanted me to talk about content is king, because at Byliner it really is. That's one of our core philosophies. We believe that great content for us means stories. And if you're not familiar with what we do, we commission, collect, and curate great stories from the world's best authors. And in many ways, we think of ourselves less as a publishing company and more as an entertainment company. We work with the world's best writers. I think we're losing these slides, so I'm going to run through them just one more time here for you. There we go. That's my bio to recap. There, is it going? Perfect. Sorry about that. So with Byliner, we work directly with the world's best writers to deliver their stories to readers. And I'm going to sync up now. There we go. And we do this first in a category called e-shorts, which all of you probably know a little bit about. It's a category that's a little less than 2 years old. Byliner helped to pioneer that category. They're e-books, they're digital narratives that are written to be read in an hour or two, and they carry a price point of about $4.99 or less. They're known by various names at the different retailers. Some people call them singles, quick reads, snaps, short reads. At Byliner, the ones that we commission and publish, we call Byliner Originals. And last year, we sold about 1 million of them. In fact, 1/4 of every e-short ever sold is a Byliner Original. What you're seeing there is the current 6 bestsellers that we have, which includes a New York Times Byliner Original. Here's the deal, that's part of a partnership that we launched with the New York Times. It's a young category, this e-short category, this quick read category, but with a rise in mobile reading, we're seeing a lot of good and positive growth. As Joe mentioned, we also work to make these titles, make these stories available in any way that a reader might want to enjoy them. Working with Ingram on print-on-demand versions, with Random House on audio versions, with some of our publishing partners like the Times and Esquire to deliver them digitally. And as of the beginning of the year, we've begun making them available via a subscription model directly at Byliner. Now, we cheat a little bit when we talk about quality content. We're fortunate in that we work with name brand authors. But one of the things that we actually exploit is that in this space, committed readers actively seek out content from these great storytellers. And yet, that process remains fairly frustrating for millions of fans. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how that specific discovery process and how Byliner deals with it. Every month, 90 million people seek out content by the writers that we work with. And we study the way the volume of that readers goes out and seeks these stories, and then how frequently those efforts end in a dead end. If you look at these numbers here, some of our authors, that's their monthly tally of actual audience that's seeking stories by them. And as you can see across the top authors, there's a huge audience of them. But because most writers lack a searchable, sortable, linkable directory of that work, that means a lot of their would-be readers grow frustrated. And as a result, the authors and the publishers they work with, Byliner included, lose out on sales. So one of the early things that we started to do was build, there are probably engineers and designers in here, I'm going to use an analogy, a writer version of a GitHub page or a Dribbble page, a single shareable canonical URL that encompasses their entire portfolio of work. We decided to start building these out because it was an excellent sales tool for the Byliner originals that we were going to be publishing. And at the moment, we've got about 5,000 writers in our database with these directories. Some of them are very well known. Others of them are a little more obscure. And here's what we do, as our infographic there shows. We gather all types of content by these narrative writers. It might be e-shorts, it might be magazine stories, it might be stories that have never lived digitally online, it might be serialized content, book content that's been repurposed in an interesting way. We gather all of that up, and we curate and clean that data. We apply a natural language taxonomy of keywords, we geolocate it, we make everything available so that it more easily plugs into a search and social graph so that readers can find that content. One way of thinking about it is that we create live digital feeds of a writer's entire body of work, a stream of their stories. And once you do that, it can become a very, very powerful reader acquisition tool for the byline, for the author. In fact, byline can power that author's byline wherever it lives online. You're seeing an actual instance of it here. At Pocket, when I save, I'm one of Pocket's 7 million users, and so when I save a story, as I've done here with a Michael Lewis story, Byliner now powers that byline. And from that queue, if I click on that author's byline, it opens up an instance of his byliner page, his or her byliner page. And now we're able to guide those readers to more stories by that author and ultimately bring them to a page that encompasses all of their work. And they can follow the writer, and from that point forward, whatever a writer writes, wherever they write it, it drops into their reading queue. It's delivered directly to them. Now you can kind of imagine how powerful that is as a reader acquisition tool and as a way to quickly convert a first-time reader who might be frustrated by being able to find work by their favorite writer and turn that into a devoted fan and customer of the author. Where this starts to get really interesting is when you combine this frictionless discovery method, let's call it an IMDb for writers, with an ability to consume full content via a subscription model, kind of a Netflix for reading. And that's what Byliner launched at the beginning of the year. It's an HTML5-based subscription reading service that makes all of our e-shorts, all of our Byliner originals, plus thousands of exclusive stories by the top writers that we work with, available to readers for a single subscription price. And by building out this infrastructure, we can even enable individual authors to be subscribable if it turns out that that's how readers want to interact with them. Now, we're just in the early stages of this. As I mentioned, it's been out for about a month and a half, and we're just collecting data and seeing where it's going to take us. But all of the early indications have been very positive, and we really believe that it's an ideal way for writers and the publishing partners that we work with to increase revenue and grow their audiences. And for readers, we think it's the most seamless, easiest, most satisfying way to discover and read the stories and the writers they love. So I'm going to circle back around to my Valentine's Day wish and the good content that we love. And we really believe it's a positive business model. It's a promising business model. We've been having great success with it, and we hope to continue to do so. Thanks very much. I want to thank Ingram for inviting me here and O'Reilly for having me here, and I hope you enjoyed this. I'd be happy to answer questions about Byliner, about the way we work with top authors, about some of the stuff that we're doing in the background to solve discovery problems, and also the things that we bring to readers. So, have a good afternoon.